You don't monetize a podcast, you monetize an audience. And so many people start focusing on how am I going to monetize, not how am I going to get an audience, because you can't monetize dust. It just doesn't work.
Hey there, I'm Sada Fainan, and this is Pod Junction Podcast, the show where business leaders share how they use podcasting to grow, connect, and build their brands. Today's guest is someone I've been following since I first got into podcasting. He's not just a podcasting educator. He's one of the people who made podcasting feel accessible to the rest of us. If you've ever Googled how to start a podcast, chances are you've come across the School of Podcasting. And today we get to hear from the man behind it all, Dave Jackson. Dave, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Awesome. I have been wanting to have you on the show for quite some time, so I'm having a little bit of a starstruck moment at the Well, Dave, you have helped thousands launch their shows. What's something you noticed really early on that tells you this person is going to stick with it?
When I ask them about their subject, they kind of light up. And I just had a member of the School of Podcasting was in my town, so we went out to dinner, and he does a show about model trains. So it's very niche. Yeah. And when he gets going on that subject, you can just see his passion just bubble out. And that's when I know, okay, he's got it. Because when you first start out and, you're going through the learning curve, and as much as I try to flatten that, you're learning new stuff, and we don't all like that because we're uncomfortable and things like that. And when you first start and you put that first episode out and you go, wait, I have 13 cousins and I only have 12 downloads. It can be a little depressing. And that's when that passion of like, I don't care. I would talk about this for free as you first get up and going. So I think that's one of the things. There's that. And just another one is, I have a member, she does a show called My Spouse Has Dementia. And when she started it, she said, somebody needs to tell the truth. She goes, because I watch TV, and she said, somebody on a TV show will lose their keys, and they're like, oh my gosh, do I have dementia? And she's like, that's nothing. She goes, she'd been taking care of her husband, obviously, since the name of the show. And she's like, this is a horrible disease. And so she started this show, and what's sad, but there is an inner lining that still moves on, is she lost her spouse, which you kind of expect, but the show lives on. And she says, I still get people that have found the show and say, I'm so glad you put this out here because I thought I was the only person going through this, or I didn't realize what I was getting into. And she just said, she just had this, like, I have to talk about this. It was just like, I don't care about the technology. I'm going to somehow figure this out. I have to do this. So when you have that passion or that drive, that really pushes people through at the very beginning.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. What is there still a space though, even if you've got the passion and the drive, is there still space for pod fade?
Yeah, it's a couple things, and that's why I don't want to come off negative, but I always try to paint a picture of reality, because people think, well, I've actually had people say, I want to quit my day job and start a podcast and quit my day job in like 6 weeks. And I go, did you say 6 years? And they're like, no, 6 weeks. And I'm like, that's, there are people on the internet that will tell you can do that. And I'm like, it's a very rare kind of thing. Yeah. And the other thing is you may have a lot of people try to fit their life into their podcast. And I'm like, you have that backwards. You want to fit your podcast into your life. So when I have somebody come up and go, yeah, I'm going to do a daily show about such and such. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, did you say daily? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, let's start off with, when you record your first couple episodes, start your phone or something and track everything. So when you're doing the research on the guest, if you're doing interviews, and then track the whole time you talk to the person, not just it was a 20-minute interview. But yeah, but it took you, an hour and a half to do the 20-minute interview. And that's fine. That's really, for me, the big power of interviews is the relationship you build, And I said, when you get done and you go, oh, wow, that took me I don't know, just pull out a number, 14 hours to do that half-hour podcast. I go, do you have 14 hours a week to do that? And they go, no, I'm actually, I have a spouse and 2 kids and soccer and all this other stuff. And you're like, well, guess what? You're not doing a weekly show. You're doing maybe bi-weekly or whatever. And a daily show, even if it's short, takes a lot of time. And there are things you can do to do that. So I think that's the thing sometimes that people think, I was just talking into a mic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's actually, if it's all in your head, okay, great. Then you don't have to do a lot of research. But I don't know about you, but I'm not perfect. So I usually have to do a little editing, and then I got to write something for Google to find on the website. And then you got to upload it. And like, it still takes. The best I've ever done was 4-to-1. And that's where I was doing what amounted to a 15-minute podcast. And it took me an hour because I had to do a little research. Then I recorded it. Then I edited it. And I typed up like a paragraph and a half. And I published it. And I looked up and I was like, well, that took an hour. And I was like, well,
oh, wow.
So and that's because there really wasn't any research. Research is, for me, the thing that, depending on how deep you want to get, that's something that you can, I had one episode where I took probably 2 weeks here and there, just a little bit here, just doing research. And a lot of people are like, well, Dave, haven't you heard of Perplexity or Chat GPT? And I'm like, you got to realize those language models, while they are, they do some amazing stuff, most of them are not up to date, right? They're like a couple years behind that's where the data came from. And I'm like, so your goal is to be a thought leader using thoughts from 2022.
2 years ago.
I go, I'm not sure how that's going to work. And so, so it's when people jump in and they go, oh, this is not just talking into a microphone, that sometimes they get a little, and I always say it does get easier, but I've never heard anybody say, oh, it doesn't take any time at all. And I'm like, it takes some time. And that's why you got to love it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you're absolutely right. Because when you first think of podcasting, you think of a mic and you think of a person talking. And so you think that's all there is to it. But once you get in it and you start peeling back the layers, there's so much more. Yeah,
it's like, if you look at anybody in the entertainment industry, whether it's an actor, like how long did it take them to learn their lines, or a musician? It's not like they just picked up a guitar and just started playing every song in the songbook. It takes practice and, dedication and things like that. And podcasting is no different as much. Even if you're doing the news and you're just relating the news of the day, well, you still had to go find the news and, that whole 9 yards. So it takes a little more time than it is. And that's where I've heard a lot of people say, I don't really have the audience size I want, but I'm having a blast. And I'm like, that's really what you got to have when you're first starting out, because it takes a while for the ball to get rolling.
Yeah. And I really like what you're saying about the research aspect of it, because it's not just stepping up to the mic and talking whatever, comes to the top of your head. It's about resonating with your audience.
Yeah, that's, I'm working on, really the last couple I have, had interviews. And when I do an interview, I go out and listen to past interviews. This time I actually tried something different. It didn't, again, I like AI, and sometimes it just does brilliant stuff, and other times, but I took transcripts of previous interviews, threw it into Chat GPT and said, give me a list of all the questions that were previously asked. Okay. And then I said, great, Chat GPT, now give me some questions that they should have asked, but they didn't. And it gave me a big, long list, but none of them were any good. But it still let me see what they had talked about. And anytime I listen to an interview, I'm always listening for the follow-up question that was missed. So if somebody says something, they say this great question, and you can kind of tell that the interviewer has their questions in front of them, and they're like, great, wonderful. What was your aha moment? And you're like, wait, don't move on. I want to hear more about that. So, but yeah, I'm always, and then for me, research is just hanging out in groups where my target audience is, whether that's Facebook or Reddit or a couple other places, some Slack groups. And a lot of times I'm not there so much to go, hey, here I am. Yeah. I'm just there to listen and see what people are struggling with. Because my last episode was about how to grow a community and how to start one and some ins and outs. And that was basically because I had 2 people at the School of Podcasting that are looking to start a community. And I told them what I knew and, the ins and outs, and I brought on an expert. And so when when I'm no longer guessing, I wonder if this is going to go over. And I can kind of think to myself, oh, this episode is for Ralph. Or, there was one about interviewing that I did. And I've talked about interviews a lot, but I found a new expert who had kind of a framework that it was like a new kind of view of a very old topic. And I had a lot of people say that was really cool. So it's always, listening to the audience and then trying to figure out how to give them what they want.
Yeah, no, that's great. Dave, podcasting used to be a passion project. Now, more and more, it's becoming a strategic tool that businesses use. How have you seen that shift play out? And what do you think most business leaders still get wrong about that shift?
Yeah, the first one is, while you can make money from the actual physical MP3 file, that's usually not it. It's just that's the marketing arm of your business. And the number one way to make money with your podcast, and everybody goes, advertising? And I'm like, no. In fact, that's one of my least favorite. But selling your own products and services. Because when we talked about, picking a schedule that works for you. So now you're, whatever it is, let's say you're weekly. So every week you're right there on whatever day you've picked. So now you're seen as reliable. And then you deliver content that when people try it or they didn't know or whatever it is, they're like, hey, that's actually pretty good. And then I say, anytime you can make a point with a story about yourself, that's always great, because then they get to know you. So I remember, man, this has been a while, but when I was growing up, Muhammad Ali was a big hero of mine. At first as a boxer, and then later as I read books about him, and he stood up for what he believed in and was really just an amazing person. Well, when he died, I was really bummed. And so I was like, well, I've got to do a podcast about podcasting. And I was like, but I don't really feel like it. And so what I did was I took my passion for Muhammad Ali and I made it into a podcast about podcasting. It was like, here's 5 things every podcaster can learn from Muhammad Ali. Number 1, really talented. Number 2, always promoting. Number 3, really unique. And I just went down the list. And what was interesting about that is I had people email me about that episode, and they're like, hey, he was my champ too. And as soon as somebody emails me, I'm like, hey, thank you so much for listening. I'm glad you liked it. By the way, what else would you like to hear on the show? But when you have that constant schedule, you're seen as reliable, you're giving them good content, so they like you. And then when you share a little bit about yourself, they feel like they know you. Yeah. So when you say, hey, I've got a book, I've got a course, I've got coaching, whatever it is you're trying to promote, it's definitely a much warmer lead than if it's somebody that didn't know you at all. And one of my favorite stories, and this is true, there's a show called The Chameleon Breeder. And I go, as in breeding the little lizard thing? And he's like, yeah, I make cages for these. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And he goes, well, what's interesting, his audience has said, we can buy these cages cheaper from overseas, but we buy them from you because you've given us so much information. So it's the law of reciprocity. You've scratched our back, we're going to scratch yours, kind of thing. Yeah. And so it just shows that connection you get with your audience. So there's that. I mean, there are other ways too. Affiliate marketing. I had one show that it was funny when Jillian Michaels, who's this fitness trainer, she was on The Biggest Loser. It was this really big show in America. And she quit for a while and did a podcast. And then she quit the podcast and went back to her TV show. And everybody was looking for the Jillian Michaels podcast. So I made one because I was a big fan. Still am a big fan. And I would explain to people, I'm not Jillian Michaels, but I would talk about whatever she was up to because she had a blog and all these other things. Well, her book came out, and it was the first book that she had done the voiceover for. Well, Audible had an affiliate program, and every time somebody signed up, I made $15. And that did really, really well for me. I was like, that was the first time I think I'd gotten a 4-figure affiliate check because everybody was like, oh, Jillian's reading her own book, and I can get it for free if I use Dave's link. So affiliate stuff can be really good. And the beautiful thing about affiliate marketing is it doesn't matter what size your audience is. It's about finding the right product for the right audience. I had a weight loss show for a while, and I was promoting this exercise device called the Total Gym. And at the time, it was on TV all the time. Every time you turn it on, there's the infomercial. There's Christy Brinkley and Chuck Norris. and I sold one for over a year, and I made my $75 commission. But all in all, it wasn't great. And I then found these things called fit decks, little decks of cards, and I bought one and dealt myself a little workout. And I just said, wow, I couldn't believe how sore I was from doing this. And I said, I could see where you could make this a game with your kids. And that's when I found out most of that audience was female, and they were home with the kids. And I would make $1.50 per deck, and they were buying multiple decks, and I would get a couple $100 here or there. And so it's again, you can find the right product for the right audience. So there's selling your own stuff. Affiliate is kind of selling other people's stuff. And then you get into things like crowdfunding, Patreon. Here's one of those sad statistics, but I'm like, I got to tell you, because people are like, if I could get 50% of my audience to give me $5, I'm like, you're not going to get 50. Okay, if I could get 25%, you're not. Yeah. And like, what? I'm like, if you're really good, maybe 3%. 5% if you're just amazing, right? And they're like, really? I'm like, everybody I talk to the people at Teachable, which is a platform for selling course. They said 2%. I got very lucky last year and ended up at one of those NPR tiny concerts. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
No.
But I was in the Washington, D.C. NPR office and just happened to be sitting next to the guy that's in charge of the NPR Plus, so kind of their premium offering. And I said, I'm not trying to get in your wallet, but percentage-wise, and he goes, somewhere a little over 1%. And I was like, oh. So there are people that are crushing it doing that, but again, not when you first start, because you don't really monetize a podcast. You monetize an audience.
Yeah.
And step one is build that audience. And then you get into host-read ads, which work if you have 10, 20,000 downloads an episode.
Yeah.
And then you get into programmatic, which I affectionately refer to as podcast welfare, where you're getting paid 0.003 cents a download, which again adds up if you've got 30,000 downloads an episode. But the thing I'm worried about with ads is the price keeps dropping, because it used to be you could kind of hold the line because not everybody had enough, there weren't that many podcasts. But as more and more podcasts come on the line, the advertiser go, here, I'd like to give you next to nothing to advertise on your show. And the first person goes, I'm not taking that. And the second person goes, are you crazy? And the third person goes, oh, it's better than a poke in the eye. And it's just a race to the bottom. And I'm like, so I worry about my friends that are only using advertising as a monetary source. But you can do it. But again, for me, when people go, how do you make money with a podcast? I go, sell your own stuff. That's the most profitable way.
Yeah, as you said, a marketing arm for your business.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's entrepreneurs, business owners who are using podcasting as their marketing arm to build their brand, but sometimes give up when results aren't instantaneous. So, we know that it takes some time. So what do you think, or what would you say is a smarter way to measure ROI that most people would miss possibly?
Yeah, this is the one that everybody goes to downloads. And I'd have to think, it's probably 4 months since I've looked at my stats. I kind of glance at them once a month to kind of see, to make sure that the bottom hasn't fallen out somewhere. Yeah. But I'll give you an example. Like I always say there's the why are you doing this? You need to know your why. Because if you don't get your why, then now we're back to pod fade. Yeah. And then there's the who, and who can't be everybody. And people think they niche down. They go, oh, it's for men 25 to 50. And I go, I got news for you. There's a big difference between a 25-year-old guy and a 50-year-old guy. I go, we need to get a little tighter on that. But when you overlap your why and the who, that kind of gives you your what. What am I going to talk about that either educates or entertains, preferably both, the who, which will help you build your audience, but moves them towards your why. That's your what. And then the other thing is that a lot of people don't even think about. I go, how are you going to track your success? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, how are you going to track your success? And they just go, well, downloads. And I go, oh, okay. I go, so your goal is advertising then? Because that's really when downloads count. And they're like, well, no, I'd like to monetize. And I go, well, I'll give you an example. In January, my download numbers go through the roof because everybody and their brother is like, this is the year I'm starting a podcast. I've been talking about it for 3 years. We're going to start a podcast. And in February, like every gym membership, the numbers are coming down, right? They're like, it's a little more work than I thought. But some of those people actually started their podcast and they'll join the School of Podcasting. So in February, my membership numbers go up, but my download numbers are going down. Well, if I track my success by downloads, I'd be really depressed. But I don't. I track my success on how many new members am I getting for the School of Podcasting. And I'm ecstatic because I'm like, okay. And so you have to kind of ask yourself, how am I going to track my success? Because if it's Jen Briney does a show called Congressional Dish, where she actually reads the bills that go through Congress and explains them in English.
Wow.
And her goal is to get people to vote different. And she doesn't care if it's left or right, just like these are the people that are doing things in our name with our money, and this is what they're doing. And so, and what's great about that is that's information you can't get any place. I mean, you can get it, but nobody's going to go through and read that 1,000-page bill, but Jen will.
Yeah.
And so consequently, that's valuable. And she uses what's called the value for value model. And she's just like, hey, this show doesn't have any ads because it's a political show. And that would be a nightmare because people would be, you need to cancel them because they don't think like I do. And she's like, so if you found this valuable, would you mind giving some of that value back? And so people send her I send her a check every month. I have it automated because that's valuable information for me. So there is that as well, but it's tricky. But I always go back to, you don't monetize a podcast, you monetize an audience. And so many people start focusing on how am I going to monetize, not how am I going to get an audience. And I'm like, because you can't monetize dust. It just doesn't work.
So how can you, if you don't mind, just talking more about how to monetize an audience?
Yeah, there's we mentioned, selling your own stuff, affiliate marketing, ads, funding, donations, and then the one that a lot of people overlook is the relationships, right, that you build with people. I just got asked to, and I think this is going to happen. I'm going to be teaching a live kind of version of the School of Podcasting to a bunch of people in Afghanistan. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because of somebody I met. They said, oh, I know the guy, go talk to him. And so that's that thing where I remember once I met, there was a famous kind of country singer back in the 70s named Kenny Rogers. He had a couple hits. And a member of the School of Podcasting had launched this true crime show. She's a detective. She'd been on TV. And she goes, hey, I'm doing like a podcast launch party. She goes, would you want to come? So I drove to Nashville. She goes, because it's filled with other detectives. And I'm like, okay, these guys are probably going to want to do a podcast. But I met, the guy's name was Kenny Rogers, and I met his assistant. And so I said, oh, we got to get Kenny to do a podcast. That would be amazing. Well, I didn't realize at the time he was pretty sick. And it was 9 months later, Kenny had already passed away. And she called me up. She goes, you probably don't remember me, but I was Kenny Rogers'. I'm like, how do you forget Kenny Rogers' assistant? Of course I remember. She's like, I'm thinking of starting a podcast now. And so it takes some patience, but everywhere I go, I'm planting little seeds and then eventually pop up. I remember I did a book called Profit from Your Podcast. And in it, I did a lot of research again. And there was an example where LegalZoom had jumped in and was sponsoring a pretty big show. And after a month, they got nothing, like just nothing at all. And they were like, look, this is a bust. Like, forget it. We want, you can keep our money for the first month, but we're pulling out. This is done. This is not working for us. And then at the end of the second month, they called them back and said, okay, wait, put it back in, because it takes a while for people to hear those messages and to get them ingrained. There's the 7. Have you ever heard of the Google 7-11-4 rule? I just learned about this myself. And according to Google, they need to hear 7 hours of your content on with 11 different touch points. So that could be, 11 different episodes or things like that. And then the 4 is 4 different platforms. So that could be a podcast. It could be a blog post. It could be a newsletter. It could be YouTube, whatever it is. I'd never heard of this. I'd heard that, they have to hear your message multiple times, but somebody said, oh, that's the Google 7-11-4 rule. And I was like, what?
What?
So It is one of those things to do. And then the other thing that a lot of people really blow it on, I interviewed Jack from the Darknet Diaries. It's a really interesting show. He does it in kind of an NPR style, but he's talking about hacking. And he was on my show. He was getting 300,000 downloads an episode, and I was like, "That's insane! How are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, first things first." He said, "Before I launched, I recorded a couple episodes and I gave it to people that I trusted would tell me the truth. And I said, did you listen to the whole thing? If not, where did you stop and why? And then number 3 was on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely are you to share this with a friend?" And he said, if I got a 7 or below, I went back to the drawing board. He said, so I really knew that this was something that was resonating with my audience. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, and then I just slowly, specifically, and confidently asked them to share the show. And I go, what does that sound like? And he goes, well, it might be something like, hey, today we talked about whatever the topic is. And do you know somebody else that would like this topic? If you could you do me a favor and just go to your phone? You know, there's that little share button, that little arrow. If you could share this with that one friend, boy, that would just mean the world to me. Or you could just tell them to go to my website at darknetdiaries.com. He goes, and they're going to think you're great because, you know, you're sharing this awesome information and you must think it's awesome because, well, you're still here. And he goes, and I get to grow my audience and we both win. And I was like, okay. And I go, so I got that. You know, ask your audience to share, make sure it resonates. I go, great. What else do you do? And he goes, that's it. And I went, he goes, now realize, you know, he'd been doing this a while. And it is a case where, like, the first year, you're kind of finding your voice. The second year, you found your voice and you're actually starting to grow your audience. And by the third year, your audience is starting to share it. So it's starting to finally grow on its own. But then I was like, that's a really interesting insight. So then I started listening to other people do that. And especially when we go to promote ourselves, we just drop the ball so bad because we feel salesy. Like, ooh, you know, and I had a friend of mine, I'd met her, I'd known her about 6 months. I helped her launch her podcast. And about 6 months later, I'm catching up with her. And I've listened to every episode she does. And I said, hey, how's the podcast going? She goes, oh, you know, numbers are going up. It's slowly growing. This is great. She goes, but I'm not getting any speaking gigs. And I go, I haven't known you that long, but either off the record or on the record, I've never heard you mention that you do speaking gigs. And she goes, yeah, I just spoke to a bunch of high school kids in the Bronx. And I go, okay, I don't remember you. And she goes, oh, I just feel salesy when I do that in the show. And I go, oh, well, I get that. I go, like a used car salesman? And she goes, yes. And I go, that's selling you a bucket of bolts. And she goes, absolutely. And I go, so your show is a bucket of bolts? And she goes, no, I spent like 13 hours on that thing. And I go, and it helps people, right? And she goes, yeah, I sure hope so. And I go, then why are you stopping yourself from helping people? And she went, oh, you've done this before. You're good. And I go, look, this is all you have to do. I said, your next episode started off with, hey, I was talking at a high school in the Bronx, and this young man came up to me and asked me this question. And I thought, boy, that would be a great topic for a podcast. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I go, there you go. It doesn't have to be this giant, this Sunday kind of advertisement. I said, you'll hear me, and I don't even do it like on purpose, like, ooh, I should say I was working with a client. I'm telling a story, and I'm like, I was working with a client because I want to keep their, I want to keep it, any private information private. So working with a client, they did this, and this is what happened. I said, well, automatically people go, oh, he must do coaching or consulting or something. And so we have to let people know. And then I started paying attention, and the people that do, and again, we feel kind of salesy. And so you get things like, hey, like you don't have to, but like maybe, I don't know, if you want to, like, I don't know, you could, tell somebody or someone, my website.com. Okay, thanks, bye. And I'm like, what was that? And so slowly, specifically, and confidently ask your audience to share. Now that's, again, it's not a 10,000 download switch. We all want that, but, and there are a lot of podcast apps now you can advertise in, but that's, again, you better have something somewhere in your show that's going to generate income, because otherwise you're growing your audience, but for for what?
What?
Unless you just got money to burn.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, because I think the more natural it is to you when you're talking on the mic, the easier it becomes, and you automatically start. So the audience gets to know you
yeah.
as well as you being able to give them value.
Yeah, and it really is a matter of just being yourself. I've known people that have tried, like right now, I'm talking maybe a little more animated than I normally do because I'm on a podcast. But you can't. There are two things that make a great episode, and one is the content, and the other one is the delivery. And so you could have amazing content, right? Like, you're not going to believe what happened to this person that did such and such. But if you deliver it like this and there's just no energy, and I was worried, that's not going to work. And likewise, you could be obnoxious sports guy and you're talking like, wait till you hear what this does, and you've got a $5,000 microphone. You can have the best content and the best delivery. But if you're just delivering drivel from ChatGPT, I was working with a client yesterday, and they gave me their show, and it's kind of a history, and it's kind of a trivia show. And I said, I always gauge this as what I call dinner party content. I go, trivia is the stuff that you didn't know, but it's interesting enough so that the next time you see somebody and they say, blah, I'll just throw out David Hasselhoff for whatever reason. And you go, you know what I didn't know about that guy? I heard this on a pod. I go, it has to be good enough for them to remember and interesting enough for them to bring up at a dinner party. And some of their trivia was like, did you know that originally their name was spelled like this? And then their manager spelled it wrong. And so they've been using the wrong spelling since 1977. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting and it's trivia, but I don't know if I'm going to go, hey, did you know their last name was spelled wrong? It's like, it's got to be that kind of like, wow, interesting thing. So it's content and delivery. And this is where a lot of people go, well, I don't have, a radio voice. And I go, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Todd Cochran, will be the first. Todd Cochran kind of sounds like this. His voice isn't super deep and he's kind of up here. Dr. Dave talks like this. Sounds like he's hoarse all the time. But he's like, nobody's going to listen to me. Listen to this voice. And I'm like, dude, the minute I hear you, I go, oh, that's Dr. Dave.
Yeah, it's distinctive.
And so, if you can just be yourself, that really comes through. And there are times when I've had people that, I'll say something and it's so funny with words, how you can just, rub people the wrong way. And I'm just like, hey, I didn't mean to offend you, or I didn't mean to do this or that. And I'm like, that wasn't my intention. Here was my main point. And I throw that at them and they either show me grace or they go, I'm not listening anymore. And I'm like, well, there's a name for you. And it's called not my target audience.
Yeah. I like that. Like that. Dave, do you think there's a sweet spot between personal voice and brand messaging then for businesses?
Yeah, you have to be. It's a kind of interesting because I've seen companies start podcasts, and it kind of depends, I guess, on what the product is. But they come across. Then look, I'm not a prude. I grew up in public schools, so I've heard all the curse words many times, backwards and forwards, and now they're coming out of the mouth of politicians, which is kind of interesting. Yes. But if your brand is F this and that, and starts off with a story about how you got hammered, like, is this the guy I want running my finances? You know what I mean? It's like, so you have to kind of think about it that way. And the other one is it's your brand. And so one of the things that I always talk about, especially with interviews, again, the biggest benefit of an interview is a relationship, but also if you have somebody showing up and they think it's, a podcast is just like a Zoom call. Well, no, it's not. A podcast is meant for public consumption. A Zoom call is meant for you and the other people on it. So if you're using your built-in laptop and it sounds like you're recording in a fishbowl in a bathroom, it doesn't really matter. It's just for the people in the meeting. And so that's where I scratched my head. They finally got it, but there was a show that talks about advertising, and especially advertising in audio. And their first 2 months, and I was like, okay, they're new. I even sent out to them. I'm like, hey, here's Here's how you can fix your audio. But they kept talking about how important audio is, and they sounded absolutely horrible. And I was like, your message is mixed here. You're saying, the chief audio officer needs to take care of this. And I'm like, and every time he brought somebody in from his company, again, they were using the built-in laptop mic or a microphone that they didn't know how to use. And I just said, I'm going to be listening to this show anyway. If you'd like, I'll be your editor and I can make it sound so like you're not in a bathroom. Yeah. I said, or B, here's a $90 microphone that can fix this. So I think that's part of it too. It is your brand. And I found this out. I used to do a weight loss show and I found a guru and I really wanted her on the show. And so we set it up and she's in the middle of the desert in Arizona. It's really, really hot. It's 100 and some degrees. And I said, hey, is there any chance you can turn your air conditioning off during the interview? And she said, absolutely not. I'm in the middle of the desert. And I said, okay, I tell you what, I said, let's just be quiet for 10 seconds. I said, I just want to record your air conditioner. So we did. And this was a while. Today, it probably would have worked, but this was, 10 years ago. And in theory, you're supposed to be able to record noise and say, okay, software, take just that noise and remove it from the recording. And it did, but it really made it sound like she was in a tin can. It just, she might as well have just been talking like this. Hey, Dave, it's great to be on the show. And I was like, it was one of those where you're like, should I put this out? And I was like, well, you can understand her. You can, and I put it out and woke up the next day to 4 emails going, what was that? And it dawned on me. I was like, even though I can point the finger and go, well, she didn't have, it's her fault. She wouldn't turn off her, and I'm like, nah, it's my brand. I let it go through to my audience. Yeah. And so I've had awkward conversations where I had a guest on once and I even did a pre-interview. I said, hey, I'm not sure we're a great fit. Let's do a pre-interview. So he comes on and I wanted to build that relationship because he's kind of a coach of coaches. And I was like, ooh, this would be a good person to know. And he was talking about some stuff and running your business. And he came on and the pre-interview was amazing. I said, just don't forget your good microphone, because he had a podcast. He's like, great. He shows up, didn't bring his good microphone. And then like 2 questions in, we're kind of going through, where I thought we were going to go. And he's like, hey, just ask me about my story. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, I know how the interview goes. He goes, just ask me about my story. And the answer that he was proposing is the way you grow your business was basically to have this guy's dad as your dad. Well, that doesn't work for my audience. And I listened to the interview later and I was like, this really doesn't have any takeaways in it that my audience can do. Yeah. We can't all be adopted by this guy's dad. So I called him back on the phone and I said, hey, I got to tell you, I listened to the episode and I said, I really appreciate your time. And, we kind of changed gears there and started talking about your story. I go, your story's amazing. I go, but in terms of what can my audience do with it? I go, I'm not really I want to inspire people. I'm assuming if you're awake, you're inspired and you're ready to go. And, he was just like, and that's when I found out why he wanted to be on my show. His goal wasn't to provide value to my audience. His goal was to get me as a client. And he pushed so hard. And it was so funny because he was like, well, I can double your income. And I'm like, well, okay, you got my attention. He's like, well, first thing you have to do is double your price. And I was like, okay, thanks for the math there, genius. But, I think I could have figured that out. And in the end, I just said, well, we could either re-record the interview and kind of go where I wanted to go. I said, but I can't put it out the way it is. And I said, I just wanted to give you that opportunity. And he just kept, he was like, so you're telling me, he goes, I can help you make more money and you still don't want to. And I'm like, no, I got your card. I go, I'm kind of good right now, but no thanks, And so it was awkward. It was really awkward because I'm a guy that wants everybody to like me and I'm kind of politely rejecting this person. But in the end, I always kind of see myself as a goalie in football / soccer. And if somebody tries to feed me stuff that's going to get to my audience and it doesn't deliver value, not on my watch. Sorry. In fact, when I do interviews, I listen to the question and then I listen to the answer. And the first thing I listen for is, did they answer the question? Because sometimes you'd be like, hey, what's your favorite pizza? And they go, it's $3.15. okay, you gave me an answer, but you didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
And so and if the answer doesn't deliver value, the question and the answer go away. And people are like, well, what if they come back later and listen to the interview? I go, we don't, because we were here. I don't need to come back. I come back and I'll listen to the how was I introduced and what did they say about me at the end?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was here. I don't have to listen to the interview. But it is all about protecting your brand and making sure you always deliver value.
I like that. Thank you so much. Dave, I'm conscious of time. I had lots of other questions I wanted to ask, but I'm
all my answers have been an hour long. I know. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. This has been really good. But I have one that I was really curious to know.
Yeah.
If podcasting disappeared tomorrow, how would you channel your love for teaching and storytelling?
Boy, that would be sad. That would be very, very sad.
It would be sad. But how would you do it? How would you get around that?
Well, I mean, there's always YouTube. As long as I don't say the wrong word and they pull me off.
Yeah.
I guess probably a newsletter, right? There's always newsletters. There's YouTube. I mean, before there was podcasting, I was posting audio on a website, which looks and smells a lot like a podcast. There's no syndication to it. So you have to come to my website to hear it. That would be, it's hard to, because I've been doing it. I didn't even realize
for
it.
a long time.
Yeah. In April, I went over 20 years.
Wow.
So it's just a part of my life that I just go, and people go, well, when are you going to retire? And I go, I don't know. As long as I can talk and type, and think, I don't see me quitting anytime soon. And it's weird because before my creative juices were kind of fulfilled, I was a musician. So I was in a band and I really enjoyed that. But something's got to let me, I got a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
So I'd have to find some way of it. And I wonder sometimes because they keep talking about different things in podcasting. It's never going to go away. I'm just worried that big companies like Spotify and YouTube are really trying to control it. And when, again, being an old musician, I remember when my band had a CD and we couldn't get it in any store because, well, you've got to go through these big companies and they were, you couldn't get on the radio because you've got to go through all these gatekeepers. And so I get worried sometimes that if we let these big companies take over and we have to go through them, well, either A, the only way to do that is they take a big giant chunk of whatever money you are able to make, or they just go, no. And that's the one thing I love about podcasting is anybody can do it. And you get instant. I mean, what really hooked me in back in 2005 is I'd taken a blog that I was doing for musicians. I turned it into a podcast. And within about a month and a half, I got a voicemail from Nuremberg, Germany. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. And Michael Van Laar from Nuremberg, Germany comes over my voicemail. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, somebody found me on the other side of the planet and they like my show. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, hopefully that'll never happen, but I'll find something to be creative and get the word out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Dave, thank you so much. This has been such fun and really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insights with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and thanks again for the opportunity.
Not a problem. But before we wrap up, if someone wants to learn more about what you do and want to get started with the School of Podcasting, where should they go to do that?
Yeah, the website is just schoolofpodcasting.com. If you're thinking of starting a podcast, you can go to schoolofpodcasting.com/checklist. And I've got a free checklist because a lot of times people go to start a podcast and I used to work at a media host and people would buy a media host before they had media to host. And so they would spend 6 months on, paying for something they didn't need. So it's not just about what steps to take, but what order to take them in. And that's at schoolofpodcasting.com/checklist.
That's awesome. That's really helpful to know because sometimes it can feel like quite overwhelming coming into something like this. And just having a step-by-step process is so helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for that. We'll make sure that all those links are in the show description. Thank you. And to those listening, thank you for being here. If this conversation got you thinking differently about the role that podcasting could play in your business, I hope it's given you more than an idea. I hope it's given you permission to go for it. So thanks for listening, and bye for now.